Immerse yourself in the gripping story of two individuals whose lives intertwine in a whirlwind of passion and betrayal. Follow their journey where the past and present intersect, and decisions become the key to their destiny. Unfortunately, many people don't know how to wait. They want everything at once and they don't care about everyone around them. It ruins them. My wife didn't have this skill. She wanted wealth here and now, and she didn't care that I was trying. She didn't even support me. Instead, she decided to get herself a rich lover. So, have you and he been intimate? Frank managed to ask, his voice strained, resenting its weakness as much as the distressing news he was receiving. He blinked to conceal his tears, perhaps hoping to wake from this nightmare, but the reality remained. He stood in his living room, gazing at his wife of 4 years holding hands with a man named Ralph. Ralph appeared and indeed was a former athlete, somewhat of a bully when given the chance, and a successful car salesman. Frank, please, I'd rather not discuss that, Anna replied with a touch of compassion, though she ended up answering anyway. Were there others, Frank? Frank, knowing that wouldn't benefit anyone, she said gently, confirming his fears once more. Frank felt like an utter fool, believing he had the perfect marriage and even boasting about it among his friends. Now he couldn't help but wonder how many of them had been involved with his wife, laughing behind his back as he praised her. I thought you loved me, he whimpered, disgusted by his own vulnerability. And I do love you, you have to believe me. You're kind, compassionate, and loving, and I appreciate that about you. But that's not all I desire in life. Ralph is stronger, more assertive, more traditionally masculine, taking charge instead of just suggesting things. He gets things done, Frank, in very ways. Her smirk and flushed cheeks left no room for misunderstanding, and he's wealthier. Yes, he has more money too. I don't want to spend my life barely getting by until it's over. I want to explore, experience new things, and seize all the opportunities life offers. Frank couldn't fathom a life without his cherished wife. She was his everything. Despite the immense pain she had caused him through her infidelity, he was prepared to humble himself, to forgive her transgressions, and to embark on a fresh journey to repair their marriage. She remained his partner, and he was ready to confront the challenges, even if it meant shouldering some of the blame. Anna, I understand. I've been preoccupied with launching my business. Frank, I could have understood that if your business had shown any promise, but it hasn't. You know that as well as I do. Anna, I love you. Once my business takes off, we'll have financial security, he insisted, disregarding her pessimism. In some way, I still care for you, Frank, she said, almost convincing herself, but it's not enough. I hate to cause you pain, but our relationship is over. Don't resist it. It will be easier if you simply accept it and move forward. Ralph observed the spectacle with a smirk playing on his lips. He could easily outmatch Frank, even with one hand tied behind his back, and Frank was fully aware of it. The entertainment for Ralph lay in witnessing Anna intentionally shatter Frank's heart and ego, all the while professing her love for him in her own twisted manner. Take care, all right? I trust you will. You'll find someone else soon enough. Farewell, Frank, she uttered gently yet resolutely. Frank attempted to turn away before his tears betrayed him, but his effort was futile, and he let out a gasp. Ralph, Anna scolded him, doubt creeping into her mind once more regarding her actions. Nevertheless, the decision had been made, and she would have to follow through with it. For years later, Anna and her husband found themselves standing before a vast, sterile mansion. Both felt tense, realizing that much hinged on this encounter. It was a difficult moment for them both. Eventually, Ralph mustered the courage to ring the doorbell. Anna, is that you? The man who answered the door greeted simply, showing less surprise than she had anticipated at her unexpected visit. The man vaguely resembled her ex-husband, but now he emanated wealth. He was dressed in expensive yet casual attire, noticeably leaner and more muscular, altering his posture entirely. Yet, there was a subtle air of sadness about him. Please come in, he responded in the same neutral tone. With tentative steps, they followed him into the expansive foyer and then into a living room that exuded a sense of modernity and style, dominated by shades of white. The entire house resembled something straight out of an architectural magazine, yet it lacked vitality akin to a high-end furniture showroom. Anna found herself torn between feeling pleased or disturbed by the sight. The realization hit her harder the longer she dwelled on it. She had inadvertently disrupted this man's life. It was evident he lived alone. There were no traces of female presence in the house despite its luxurious appearance. There was an underlying sense of melancholy. "Frank, how have you been? How's life been treating you since we parted ways? How do I look to you? You seem well, and you've clearly been doing well financially." "You're quite well informed." His tone remained eerily neutral. "Yes, we've all heard about your success. Our old circle probably still finds it amusing." He cut her off. "What do you think?" "Oh, no, none of them are aware of my transgressions," she thought to herself, except for the ones directly involved. "So, you've heard about my success," Frank interjected. Frank still couldn't stand the conceited man, but the situation had a certain potential for amusement. "So, what brings you here?" He already had a good idea, but he wasn't going to make it easy for them. "Frank, I understand if you're not particularly fond of me," an understatement, Frank mused inwardly. "Regardless, this visit is purely business, and I believe setting aside our past differences could be mutually beneficial." "Oh, it will certainly be beneficial for me," Frank thought. "You see, Ralph has a business proposal," Anna added. "I thought you had no interest in fledgling business ventures." She gazed at him, astonished. After a moment, she composed herself. "Frank, please don't assume I left you for financial gain. Didn't you? You claimed you loved me, but money was tight, and you wanted to embrace life fully, something along those lines. Frank, you were the kindest, most caring man I've ever met. But sometimes, I needed someone more decisive, someone to take the lead in life and with me. And that someone would be Ralph, the failed car salesman, now taking the reins of life, while I'm left here, the hesitant one being asked for money." They were both taken aback. They anticipated tension, but not these sharp and painful comments delivered with an irritatingly neutral tone. It was hard to respond, as what he said was undeniably true, and they couldn't afford to alienate Frank. Too much was at stake. Ralph was the first to regain his composure. "Frank, I understand we may never be friends after what happened, but this is strictly business. I'm seeking an investor for an idea I have to manage rentals for companies that are in need of." "I'm not interested," Frank rudely cut him off. That's a new development, Anna thought. Frank had always been remarkably polite in the past. "Ah, I see." Ralph tried to conceal his disappointment. This was his last hope. Financial ruin loomed if Frank didn't assist him. "However, I will offer you money." "What?" they both exclaimed. "I'll make a deal with you, but it won't be the one you had in mind." Frank's voice remained steady and composed, but there was determination behind his words. This wasn't the gentle, kind-hearted, and completely harmless Frank they remembered. Anna lamented the loss of that man. In his own unique way, he was truly one in a million. He had cooked for her, spoiled her, and made tender, intimate love to her. Yet somehow, it hadn't been enough. Living with Ralph, she had grown to appreciate the old Frank more and more. But now it seemed like he was no longer there. Her reasons for visiting were slightly different from Ralph's, though he wasn't aware of that. She mainly wanted to see if there was any chance of reconciling with Frank, but that hope seemed dim now. The person she once knew appeared to be gone, destroyed, or at least changed by her actions. The loss of this uniquely sensitive man suddenly felt overwhelming. "I'll give you 50,000 euros. 25,000 euro up front and 25,000 euros after the deal is done. Does that work for you?" "Wow, yeah, man, wow, 50 grand euros, that's amazing. What do I have to do for it?" "I want to borrow Anna for 4 weeks, Frank responded quietly, surprising both Anna and Ralph. There was no angry outburst, not even a pretense to save face. There wasn't even a moment's hesitation. Ralph seemed even more desperate than Frank had anticipated. Anna, what do you think? Wait, what's included in that? I won't harm her in any way. I just want to spend a few weeks with my ex-wife. Just for old time's sake, you know, Frank said, offering a small, chilly smile to the desperate couple, the most emotion he had shown thus far. Oh, Anna, what do you think? Well, it appears to be our only option, doesn't it? She attempted to conceal her profound satisfaction with the proposal, almost feeling giddy. However, she couldn't let Ralph detect her excitement lest he terminate the deal and extinguish the unexpected opportunity to reconcile with her ex-husband. Ralph, as usual, seemed oblivious to such nuances. His focus remained solely on the financial aspect. On the other hand, she noticed that Frank was attentive to everything, retaining the perceptiveness and intelligence that contributed to his economic success. She couldn't help but question her judgment when she betrayed this ideal man for someone like Ralph. Yeah, it seems that way, Ralph replied, also masking his joy. This was the stroke of luck he had been praying for, the opportunity he desperately needed, and he was determined to seize it. He could endure her absence for a few weeks, though he would miss her deeply. The prospect of handing her over to her feeble ex bothered him, although he wouldn't admit it openly. Unlike modern men like Frank, deep down, he genuinely cared for her. The idea of exploiting her was repugnant, but he viewed it as a necessary sacrifice for their future prosperity. Soon enough, he would surpass Frank in wealth, and the fool would fade into obscurity. So, when do we begin? Frank asked. It's up to you. You'll receive the $25,000 once we commence, Frank assured him. Ralph turned to Anna, hoping she would agree. Would I need to stay here immediately? I don't have any clothes with me, she voiced her concern. Don't worry about that. We'll buy whatever you need, Frank assured her. Oh, that's wonderful, Ralph felt uneasy at the revelation. Ever since he convinced Anna to leave her unsuccessful husband, their financial situation had taken a downturn. Money had been scarce, and Anna had accumulated a list of overdue shopping. Ralph couldn't match Frank's financial stability, and for the first time, he empathized with how Frank must have felt when their roles were reversed 4 years ago. Well, I suppose I could definitely use some immediate financial assistance. What do you say, dear? Could you stay here right away? Ralph asked. I'd rather not dwell on it too much or I might lose my nerve. It's better to deal with it now. I suppose, Anna began, attempting to sound more hesitant than she felt. I suppose I could agree to that. You don't love him anymore, do you? Ralph, this is already hard enough. Let's not complicate things further by revisiting old emotions and memories. Remember that I'm doing this for you. That should demonstrate my love enough, she spoke gently and calmly, much like she had 4 years ago when she left Frank. She placed her hand softly on Ralph's arm, looking into his eyes, hoping he would trust her. It turned out unnecessary. At that moment, he was entirely consumed by greed. All right then, I'll depart right away. It's probably the simplest. Oh, what about my payment? Ralph inquired. Oh, of course. Hold on, I'll fetch it. Do we require some form of agreement? Frank remarked, maintaining that infuriatingly neutral tone. It stung her a little, yet once again, Ralph appeared oblivious. She suddenly felt a twinge of disgust towards him and herself for selecting him as her spouse. Frank was astounded at how easily they relented, as he had anticipated. Their visit and his plan had unfolded more or less as expected, but he had anticipated a tougher negotiation and a higher price. Even 100,000 euros or more would have been insignificant to him and entirely worthwhile. Frank headed to his office, retrieved 25,000 euros from the safe, and silently passed them to Ralph, consciously avoiding any physical contact. Ralph regarded the bundle as though he'd hit the jackpot. Frank understood it was a temporary relief. He was drowning in debt, and his business plan was a joke. Nonetheless, it represented his final hope, and he clung to it. All right, thanks. I guess you can go now, Ralph. Yeah, Just wanted to say goodbye to her, you know, Ralph said. No, she's mine now. You have the money, and the 4 weeks have begun. What? Oh, all right, Ralph was astonished. There was no trace of the arrogant, heartless man who had taken his wife. He seemed defeated already, and more trouble surely awaited. He practically wore a sign that screamed loser. Frank almost felt sorry for him, perhaps he sensed it himself. Okay, I'll go then. Astonishingly, that's exactly what he did, without any further argument. Frank returned to where Anna waited. Ah, there you are. Where's Ralph? She carefully avoided using the word husband. Instead of responding, he simply approached her, cradled her head in his hands, and kissed her deeply and passionately, encountering no resistance whatsoever. After a brief hesitation, she began to actively participate, even enthusiastically. Yes, she recalled. No one kissed quite like Frank. She also remembered his unmatched foot massages, culinary skills, and tender, caring lovemaking. The only thing he lacked 4 years ago was a touch of assertiveness and strength, but she was certain he possessed it now. And of course, money. As he began to conclude what she considered the kiss of the century, she was reluctant to let him go. She could already feel arousal building within her. Wow, she finally exclaimed, still slightly breathless. Wow, you certainly haven't forgotten how to do this. I haven't had much practice though. Don't tell me, no one else? You're the last woman I've been with, Frank confessed. Oh my God, oh Frank, I had no idea. I feel. She appeared genuinely surprised. It doesn't matter. You can make it up to me now, her smile returned in full force. Oh yes, boy, am I going to. When do we start? She asked eagerly. It seems you have me under your spell now, Frank replied. I do. We start right now, much to her surprise. He effortlessly lifted her and carried her, the excitement evident in her joyful squeals as they made their way through the house towards one of the bedrooms. His recently acquired strength was a major turn-on for her. They wasted no time undressing and eagerly indulged in each other's embrace. Anna was amazed at how wonderful it felt to reconnect intimately after such a long time apart. While her previous experiences with Ralph had been enjoyable, she had secretly longed for the tender touches, skilled oral pleasuring, and affectionate kisses. She craved this closeness and his selfless dedication to pleasing her. Determined to reclaim her place as his beloved, she resolved not to let him slip away this time and to make this moment truly special. As she reached her second climax from his expert touch, she realized she had grown accustomed to regularly performing oral sex for Ralph, something he expected and she willingly provided. She also noticed that Frank wasn't used to this, which explained why she hadn't had the chance this time. Reflecting on her past behavior, she felt regret for losing respect for Frank despite his selfless and caring nature. Now, it seemed so absurd to her, and she was determined to make it up to him generously. She marveled at how gracefully Frank had accepted her back with minimal blame and open arms. She also appreciated that his movements during sex were more assertive and commanding than they had been 4 years ago. It was the perfect combination, the old Frank with a touch of Ralph and a significant increase in wealth. What a man, she thought, as his expert lovemaking transported her into a state of blissful oblivion. After lying together for a while, basking in the afterglow of intimacy, she found her voice again. Wow, that was much needed, she said, stopping herself from dwelling on how much she had missed it. Better to focus on the present, she thought. That was incredible, she added sincerely. Yeah, it was pretty amazing, wasn't it? That was fantastic, Anna, Frank said. Yes, surprisingly, tears welled up in her eyes. Thank you, Frank, for everything, he simply nodded, his expression unreadable to her. Something had shifted, but she couldn't quite grasp what. Still, everything felt wonderful. So, my dear, it's 4 p.m. What shall we do with the rest of the day? Oh, I feel so content. I think I'll just relax and... Shopping, he interjected, knowing it would excite her, it always did. Instantly, she was wide awake. Do you think we could? I think. He paused dramatically. Why not? Yay! Okay, I'm racing you to the shower. She leaped out of bed with enthusiasm, her smile infectious. Oh, by the way, where's the shower? Looking around, still slightly bewildered by the vastness of the house and their bedroom, she asked. That door, he pointed. Wow! The bathroom alone seemed as large as Ralph's living room. A solitary tub sat in the center, and an open shower without a stall stood next to an enormous window offering a breathtaking view. She could definitely get used to this. In fact, she resolved inwardly she would. She would ensure she never let go of this wonderful man again. The subsequent shopping excursion fully met all her remaining feminine desires. After impulsively splurging thousands of euros on clothing and essential items, she reaffirmed how much she would relish her revived relationship with her former love. There were no concerns, no haggling over prices, no need for explanations or debates. It was straightforward. She desired something, and she acquired it. Around 7 o'clock, they opted for a high-end restaurant, and she nearly burst into laughter with joy upon realizing that Frank wasn't fazed by the prices at all. That was definitely working in her favor. Annoyingly, Ralph disrupted her newfound state of contentment by calling her on her old, inexpensive Android phone. She simply dismissed the call. Not now, she thought, before affectionately smiling at Frank once more. Anna effortlessly adapted to the new lifestyle without any difficulty. Before long, a sleek new convertible was waiting for her in the garage, her wardrobe underwent a complete overhaul, and she acquired a brand new iPhone. They engaged in intimate relations at least once daily, and the experience remained as exhilarating as their initial encounter. Despite his prior claim of 4 years of celibacy, his performance had notably improved. Or perhaps Anna's perception had shifted, perhaps she now valued him for who he truly was all along, or maybe she respected him more due to his wealth. Regardless, everything felt splendid. Her idyllic existence was regularly interrupted by Ralph's incessant calls and messages, which she found as bothersome as swatting away a fly. Swiftly changing his contact name from hubby to Ralph was a deliberate move, signaling his diminishing role in her life. Though she occasionally entertained his calls and replied to his texts, she was resolute in freeing herself from him once they met face to face again. Life with Frank was incomparably superior. To her surprise, things took a turn for the even better within days. A sizable suitcase awaited her in the center of their bedroom. Anna regarded her new partner, Frank, with a quizzical expression. Pack what you need, but don't stress over it. We can always acquire whatever else we require wherever we go, he said. Oh my goodness, she exclaimed. Where are we off to? What do you think about starting with European capitals? Rome, Paris, Vienna. Before he could finish, she interrupted him with a whoop of delight, and he smiled contentedly. It was a delightful moment for both of them. In the weeks that followed, they enjoyed sightseeing, shopping, and passionate moments in Rome and Paris, culminating in a luxurious trip to the Maldives. Anna couldn't imagine being any happier. She felt like she might burst with joy as she basked in the afterglow of their intimate encounters. With her man by her side again, she felt as though she had corrected a major mistake and was now living a life beyond her wildest dreams. Surprisingly, they avoided discussing their past, and his expanding business didn't seem to demand much of his attention. Instead, he devoted all his time to her, which made her pleasantly surprised and content. After reveling in pure happiness for a few weeks, Anna found herself back in their opulent residence. She regarded it as their home, though she aimed to infuse it with her own feminine touches soon. At this point, she was more deeply enamored with Frank than she had ever been with anyone else. This life, this man, constituted her sole desires and necessities. Her responses to Ralph's persistent attempts to reach her had gradually diminished, unfortunately leading to an influx of more messages, pleas, and promises from him. She acknowledged the pain she was causing him and was determined to release him from it once they met face to face again. She was now fully Frank's partner, as she should have been all along. Ralph was merely a misstep, a fleeting deviation. She reclined on the deck, basking in the sun and enhancing her already impressive tan when the doorbell interrupted her tranquility. Unexpected visitors didn't bother her much. She relied on Frank to handle such matters. She was unequivocally his woman, placing complete trust in him. A shadow obstructed the sunlight, prompting her to reluctantly open her eyes. It was Ralph. She had little desire to engage with him. He held no significance in her life anymore. Yet she recognized the need to confront him eventually. "Anna," he uttered, his expression conveying profound discontent. However, his emotions held little sway over her now. She failed to see the parallel to her own demeanor upon departing from Frank 4 years earlier. "Oh, Ralph," she said. Not the most eloquent response, she admitted. The truth was she had little to say to him. He belonged to her past, a fact she hadn't explicitly communicated yet. "You could have at least responded to a few of my calls or texts. You know, Ralph. Things have changed." Ouch, she winced. That was painful to see written all over his already anxious face. Clearly, he had anticipated what was coming and would handle it as poorly as Frank had 4 years ago. Why were men so fragile when faced with pivotal moments in life? "What are you saying?" he choked out. She hoped he wouldn't embarrass himself by begging or crying. Her esteem for this failure was already minimal even before a humiliating display. "Well, Frank and I have reconnected. I intend to be with him. Let's try to make this as swift and painless as possible, okay?" Anna, damn, he was on the verge of tears. Even the old Frank from 4 years ago had displayed more composure than the wreck of a man before her. "You can keep almost everything in the divorce. I just want a few personal items." "Anna, you can't do this. I love you. Anna, please, damn, this was going to turn ugly." She asked sternly, "The same man who was ready to exploit me for a few €1,000? "Anna, we both agreed to it." "You can't blame me for that," Ralph pleaded. "Ralph," she said, attempting a different approach, aiming for empathy. "Frank and I have come to realize that we still have feelings for each other, and he's wealthier." He cut her off. "Yes, he's wealthier, but it's not about money. Sure, you left him for me when I had more money. Now the tables have turned, and you're abandoning ship again." "Well, She struggled to find a valid response. It was a harsh truth. It wasn't the whole story, but it was true. Observing Frank's amused smile on his attractive face as he witnessed the entire scene, she felt a wave of relief. She knew he would once again take charge and navigate them through this unfortunate situation. Her desire to rid herself of Ralph and continue her newfound life surged. "Frank, could you please hand Ralph his payment? It's imperative we resolve this swiftly." "Absolutely," Frank replied. "Ralph, here's your $25,000. I'm certain it will be of great assistance to you." Seriously, Ralph's tone turned slightly furious. "Do you think I'd betray the woman I love for a measly 50 grand? "No, but you might rent her," Frank retorted. "Then why the talk of her staying with you?" "She won't be. We had an agreement, and I'm upholding my end. I've had Anna for the agreed upon 4 weeks, and now you get your money. She's yours once again. Enjoy." "Oh, Frank," Anna's voice hinted at unease. Would Frank really let her go after they had shared such unforgettable moments? "The 4 weeks have elapsed. I want to express gratitude to both of you for honoring our agreement," Frank stated calmly. Anna's shock was beyond description. "Frank, darling, you can't be serious. You're not seriously considering throwing me out after 4 amazing weeks just because of some silly deal with Ralph?" "Yes, I am. I made a promise to Ralph, and I intend to honor it. Frank, we're finally back together the way we should have been all along. Please, darling, could this really be happening?" In a matter of minutes, she went from cloud 9 to utter despair. "Have I ever mentioned wanting to reconcile with you? No. I aim to regain my confidence as a man, and I believe our intimacy helped a great deal. You always claimed it was the best you've ever had, and I'm sure you meant it." Ralph winced at this admission. But you failed to acknowledge your own lack of contribution. I was the one making it enjoyable, you were merely the recipient. Now that I understand that, I can have equally fulfilling experiences with other women. Plus, it strokes my ego that you chose to end things with me for Ralph. I doubt it bodes well for your future relationships, but I'm indifferent to that. It certainly benefits mine, whoever that may be. Anna could only manage a feeble response, still struggling to come to terms with the sudden turn of events. Perhaps I also intended to demonstrate to you what you might have experienced if you had chosen to stay 4 years ago. I'm certain the past 4 weeks we've spent together will leave you with fond memories, even as you reside with Ralph in a modest apartment, struggling to make ends meet. Additionally, I wanted to highlight how readily both of you were willing to abandon ship yet again at the first sight of a better opportunity. I can't believe, she stuttered. Ralph, would you kindly assist her in packing her belongings? He addressed his ex-wife. You can keep the clothes I purchased for you. All is not lost, you see. You now have a new phone and wardrobe, a glimpse of the better life you could have led, while Ralph has $50,000 to squander on frivolous business ventures. Frank wasn't taken aback by Ralph's lack of enthusiasm about the situation. While he had regained his partner, it was evident that she had designated him as her second choice. Her swift abandonment of Frank for Ralph mirrored her potential to do the same to Ralph. The prospects for their relationship were uncertain at best, especially considering Anna's acknowledgement of the superior intimacy she had shared with Frank. Both Ralph and Anna understood that their relationship was doomed. Unlike her partners, Anna was determined not to degrade herself with futile pleas. Quietly and with a stoic demeanor, she took Ralph's hand and led him to the bedroom they had briefly shared with Frank. Despite the turmoil in her life, she resolved not to cry. Ralph assisted her in packing her belongings, including a suitcase still bearing the airline sticker from their return flight from the Maldives, serving as a bitter reminder of her failure. As Ralph silently carried the suitcase to his car, Anna stole a glance at Frank, who remained expressionless. She couldn't blame him for his reaction to her actions, admiring his grace and intelligence in seeking retribution. She envisioned the fortunate woman who would win him over with a brief smile and a nod. She followed her soon-to-be ex-partner to the car. The journey back home was marked by silence. Ralph focused intently on his driving, filled with apprehension that his tenuous self-control would falter. Memories flooded his mind of how arrogant and complacent he had been 4 years ago when he had snatched this stunning woman from another man he deemed inferior. Fate had reversed roles, leaving him as the ultimate loser in business, love, and life. Anna gazed out of the window, seeing Frank both as he was today and as he had been 4 years prior. He had undergone significant changes financially, physically, and in demeanor. Although he still ignited passion within her, his motives were now driven by a desire to bolster his own confidence rather than genuine love for her. Once he had loved her wholeheartedly, now that love seemed non-existent. Observing Ralph's stern expression, Anna realized she had inflicted considerable damage upon him as well. Suddenly, she found herself questioning her own character. Was she truly so shallow? Would she continue to discard men who didn't meet her exacting financial standards? Twice now, she had abandoned relationships for what she perceived as better prospects, yet it hadn't brought her happiness. Perhaps it was time to explore a different approach. Frank came to the realization that he was now genuinely liberated. Rather than seeking vengeance, his primary aim had been to rebuild his self-assurance, and he believed he had achieved this with flying colors. He would now embrace the numerous dating invitations that had recently poured in. Among them were women who were far more attractive and affable than Anna could ever be. He wasn't worried about encountering opportunists. Long-term commitments weren't on his mind. It was simply his time to revel in life and have a good time, and that's exactly what he intended to do. The act of a hero who, deciding not only to make tough decisions but also to overcome their own perceptions of themselves and others, stands out for its exceptional courage and inner strength. Their actions serve as an example of how a person can overcome challenging circumstances and reach a new level of self-awareness and self-improvement.